There we go. Let's get that recording started, but we will get started in 5 minutes. So 5 minutes. Okay, excellent. Thanks for logging on a few minutes early so I can get attendance done. And we can get started right at 6. All right. I'm actually going to start this lecture with a poll, right? So you can take the time to fill that out. All right. Okay, so if you can, yep, just, okay, our subject matter. So Angela, are you on a phone that it's hard to do a poll? Are you able to see it? So Angela, are you able to see the poll? Angela, are you able to see the poll that's out there on the screen? Oh, no problem. You know, but are you able to see it? So occasionally I get a student that when I list a poll, they're not able to see it. Okay, so yep, okay, so most of you occasionally once per week. Okay, so we're going to cover two subject areas today, kind of online digital marketing and then ethics. So a little bit, the ethics is a little bit more intangible in terms of some of the discussion matter. So a little more ambiguous tonight, but let's start with actually keyword number one for online students only. So you guys here, you're good to go, kind of zone out for a minute. Online students, keyword number one, if you're listening to lecture for credit, is quiz. And all of you, we have the quiz that is going to be released tonight and is due. So yeah, I know, I'm with you, Jade. I kind of just started, I think, a little bit of a cold. And I don't usually get sick very often, but my nose, I'm a little sniffly. So I may seem like I'm in this hollow room, which I am, but my tonality might be a little different tonight. But yes, so there is a lot that you guys have for this week, right? So you're going to have homework at the end of lecture for chapter 3 for the company you chose. There's going to be another homework at the end of chapter 4, right? So homework is covering 2 chapters, 2 different topic areas, plus a quiz. So I'll try to keep on task for the subject matter that we want to cover in lecture. And that way we'll give you some class time that you're able to maybe get into that quiz or work on that homework, because it is a lot, I will admit. So let's start with just a recap of where we've been so far, right? So we've talked about that marketing plan and the context of the marketing plan, how it fits into the big picture of strategy. And there are 5 steps, 3 phases, right? So mission statement, broad description of the firm's objectives, how they plan to accomplish those objectives. Another way would be, stating is, they're saying who they are, what they do would be the mission statement. So that was part of your homework, right? Was analyzing the mission statement for the company that you chose, and everyone did a really good job with that, right? So from there, we conduct a situation analysis, and that's where we did that SWOT, right? We did that SWOT last week, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We take those opportunities from our SWOT and then we evaluate them using, what is our STP again? What's the S of STP? What's the S of STP?
Segmentation.
Segmentation, thank you. T is what?
Targeting.
Targeting, yes. And then our P is positioning, which is going to align with the promotion of our marketing mix, right? So our marketing mix, product, price, promotion, and place. And promotion and positioning kind of go hand in hand because it's our method of communicating to our target market. Then we allocate resources to that sense. Once we kind of got the plan started, we continue just as we do in every other aspect of life. We evaluate performance and make adjustments as we need to, right? We went through 4 growth strategies last week: market penetration, market development, product development, and diversification. So think of it like this way: market penetration, right? Market penetration, we have the same market, right? Same market or same product, and we are going into and developing new uses. So for example, if we're looking at like a market penetration, if I am baking soda, right? So everyone's familiar with baking soda, right? So baking soda is a product. Arm & Hammer is by far the market leader of baking soda, but what other products has Arm & Hammer made with baking soda that isn't baking soda that's used for baking? What else have they done? Toothpaste, cat litter. Yeah. So they've taken and they've kind of, right. So market development is saying, okay, we are going to go out and develop a market, right? So it's kind of very, oh, really? They have dog shampoo? Oh, that's interesting. Never seen that one before. Oh, interesting, right? So market development, you're going out and expanding into different markets. So if I am Coca-Cola, right, I have my product, and as they go out into different countries, introducing Coca-Cola to different countries, that's market development. Product development is new product, right? And then diversification, it's kind of that very risky component of our strategy, where we're going out and looking at new product and new market. And again, that's the most risky, because we're going out of our comfort zone, if you think of it that way. All right. So that's where we were last week. This week, going into digital marketing. The one nice thing about teaching adults is you guys, well, actually, you know what? The one thing about teaching this to anyone probably over the age of 8 now, the way that technology has expanded, right? So social media, any type of electronic communication. And we do a lot of stuff with social media, right? We exchange information. But from a business perspective, it is how do we use this to communicate, right? So how do we use this as part of our positioning? How do we use this as far as maybe discerning more of our target market, trying to get into more niches, right? So how many of you guys, the use of cookies for tracking is a big thing. And in fact, we don't really even get into some of the ethics of social marketing here, although we could talk about it in chapter 4. So we could kind of carry it over. Yeah, there's all kinds of ethics going on now with social media as well. Can I ask you this? How many of you guys use social media sites? So completely different from business, where it is really just for social. It's not for doing business. So it's hanging out with friends or family, you know, like a Facebook, that's like just not for business at all. Do any of you guys use that? Okay, Discord, my kids use Discord. Messenger is a big thing. Okay, Discord. Yeah, all right. So the vast majority, I should have really asked him. I have to say, I'm with you, Ian. I don't use any like that. Maybe because after teaching marketing for a while, you kind of get a little paranoid on some of how much is being tracked. So yeah, I don't use Facebook. That being said, though, if I ever need to buy something or look for something at Facebook Marketplace, I do have my family go and do it for me. So I use it. I just don't have a site myself. But yeah, so yeah, there's just drama everywhere. I'm with you, Scott. So I kind of try to excommunicate myself from that somewhat. But we cannot do that if we're in business, right? No matter how we feel in business, it is important to have a social media presence. So how we go about doing that, we have what we call 4 E's, right? Excite, educate, experience, and engage. So Excite, how do, what do we need to do to get the customer, to know the customer? How do we make ourselves relevant? How do we communicate in a way that's going to appeal to our target market? Educate is just like it sounds, what tools can I use to educate either my current market, my current customers, or even just from a broad perspective about the benefits of our products, what we're doing in terms of like PR, involvement in societal components. So how do we educate? Experience is providing the consumer an experience, right? So how can we simulate real life? And then engage. How can we actively participate? So the ways that we go ahead and do this, typically, Excite, we would use social networks where people can interact. Now here's what I want to ask, because you guys are on, right? The research says that people who use social networks like Facebook, LinkedIn, do so between 1 and 4 hours every day. Do you find that in your experience? From what you know from people, your friends, your family, 1 to 4 hours per day? Yeah, like when I talk to my kids, for sure. It is, they are on sites. You're right, Jade. A minute here, a minute there, sitting, in line, whatever it might be. Yeah, especially, and it's very situational. But yes, 1 to 4 hours a day. So from a business perspective, right, that is a tremendous amount of opportunity to make yourself relevant if you can do it in the right way. Educate, right? How many of you guys use YouTube when you need to learn how to do something or investigate something? Like, okay, yeah, I use YouTube, guilty, I am with you, right? I will look at YouTube if I need to accomplish something that I don't know what I'm doing. This is a little bit off topic, but do you have like YouTube remorse sometimes? Like I will look up something on YouTube and it looks really simple to do. So then I'll start a project because does. And then I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm in the middle of this, what was supposed to look like an hour project. And, now I'm 3 hours into it because the YouTube video made it look so easy. And then I get upset. Okay. I may be the only person in the world that does that. I trust YouTube videos at their face value. Yeah, I get real frustrated. Yeah, YouTube is probably one of the most popular ways of trying to educate, right? Do you remember those Ford videos that we looked at, like when we looked at the Mustang, right? That is a way to educate and engage. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so we can use YouTube to educate along with other ways, right? Our website can do that as well. When we look at experience, again, part of that, the Ford videos that we've watched, right? They're very visual, and part of the whole component of that is to not only educate on components of what the truck has, but to give that experience of, okay, I can use this vehicle, I can, pull a truck, I can pull an RV, I can go camping, I can look at the stars, whatever it might be. And it provides that visual in a relatively inexpensive and easy method. We do know that things are interconnected, right? So like I said, if in your book used an explanation, right? Like home shopping network marketers use information gathered from YouTube, right? So when you click on something, all of that information, that can go somewhere, and it can be, used in terms of collecting marketing data. And then just like in the old days where we used to have, marketing lists that were sold based on magazine subscriptions and things like that. Now we have it based on where we're clicking through and using it in that sense, right? Your loyalty programs have that. Do you guys have like a customer loyalty card for like a grocery store or Target? Any of you guys? Yeah, or Quick Trip? Yes. So again, data's collected. Um, Part of it is, they're everywhere, aren't they? Right? Loyalty cards, Starbucks, right? So from a consumer perspective, we use social media to help us for buying decisions. We started the lecture by asking, how often do you use digital media on a weekly basis? So by far the majority, 7 of us on an occasional basis. So consumer behavior, we use it to learn about new goods, we do research, information, and ultimately we'll make a final purchase decision according to our little research here, once a week. It's not limited to only for-profit businesses though. Not-for-profit can use social media, and we see that as well as a method of not only generating donations, but promotion, education, getting things, using it from a social responsibility standpoint. A lot of the not-for-profits will use visuals depending on what it is, right? So if you're like the Humane Society or a dog shelter, right? They do a lot of visuals as part of their campaigns to encourage partnerships. Here's how we go about. Okay, so let me ask you this. Of the company you work or worked for, how many did they have a social media presence? Let me ask you this. Have any of you worked for a company who didn't have that? I probably should ask no instead of yes. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know of any companies that don't have a social media presence? Can you actually think of a company, profit or not? Yeah, and it's often that it will not, it's something that we do, right? So like what Crystal's saying, and this is how we go about to do, completing a social media campaign. Right? We set our strategies just like anything else. Absolutely, right? So even our nonprofits, we still have strategy and goals because you still want to reach your target market, because we want to do that promotion, we want to do that education, because that's how we're going to end up getting donations. Or if it's, something like a museum or such, we still want like admission, so it may not be only donations. So we identify our goals, we figure out who our most likely target audience is, and we figure out what that campaign is. Really what's the biggest target? Is it strictly to just get ourselves out there in an educational standpoint, right? Getting that out before we're allowing online donations, or online, a money component adds complexity to it. So we might start with a more simple plan, and then as it gets more and more, we allow or kind of adapt and add complexity. These are some terms that we'll see as part of our social media, right? So hits, right, is just like it sounds, right? It's how many times someone, clicks on something, right? So how many total requests for whatever page or topic you're looking at. When we're looking at page views, it is, once you hit it, you've got your page view. Bounce rate is you hit the page and you leave immediately, right? We've probably all done that. So in fact, I do it all the time. Sometimes if I'm going too fast and there's multiple things on my screen, or I will often actually have 2 computers going at the same time. So I'll kind of flip back between the 2 and I'll hit something wrong and all of a sudden I'm in this screen, right? So bounce rate is you get in and you get out right away, right? So you kind of know that it wasn't wasn't intentional. Click paths is when you proceed through, right? So you've clicked on it and it's actually spending the time gathering information on whatever it is that you've clicked through. And conversion rate is just how many have actually gone through and done what you wanted. Either it's a purchase or you've gone through and you've read everything and engaged somewhat with whatever's being asked. So that's a conversion rate, and that comes up as a percentage. And then keyword analysis is how do we figure out what are the most important keywords that's going to bring our site up or what we want to produce up to the market that we want. Right? So that's how we end up analyzing through all of that. And there's your homework, right? So whatever the chosen company that you have, you continue through and detail what social media tools they use and review your thoughts on how effective you think it is. So, yeah. So Jade is saying phones can track where you place your finger, how long you hold it as your scroll, how you, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing. You're right. How much, how finite the details can get to the point where it is a little bit scary. Very scary. I agree. Do you guys have Alexa? Any of you guys have Alexa? Yes, Carolyn. Yes? Did someone raise their hand? Maybe I'm just amazing. Okay, Google Home. Yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear? I cannot hear anything. Oh my gosh. Oh, what's happened? Oh. Has this happened in this class before or was it last? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, everyone else can hear you. I cannot. And this happened before. And tech had to do something. I don't know what tech did. Okay, Scott, you've only been hearing. All right. Okay. Okay, well, that's good. I am showing, okay. Okay. Like up on my screen, I can show if someone else is talking and now you're off. And then we'll see if you go back on. All right. Well, here, let me clean up my page and get this out of here though. All right. Okay. Oh, still inactive. Okay. Well, here's the deal, right? So here's your homework for chapter 4, using the company. Okay. So pretty straightforward as far as homework for chapter. Actually, that should be homework for chapter 3. Homework for chapter 3, not chapter 4. I'm so glad. Actually, I'm so glad that that happened because I might have never caught that typo otherwise. Because I would have sped through it and I wouldn't have even thought. Yeah, so there's your homework for chapter 3, social media tools. Okay, any questions on that? All right. Okay, someone try talking. Chris, try talking once, or Scott, try talking.
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Everyone can hear Chris, yes. Scott? Everyone can hear Scott? Okay. Ms. Gray, can you try talking? All right. I think it's just
Do you mean me?
Ian. Okay, I got you too.
Hello
so,
there.
all right. Excellent. So everything's good on my end. Okay. All right. That's all right. We're going to go on to Chapter 4, Ethics. And then that's going to be it for tonight, right? Yeah, that's a bummer. I had to use a camera this week. And for the life of me, I could not get my camera on my regular computer is not very good. So I have an external camera that I plug in when I'm doing meetings because it just works better. And I could not get that thing to work for the life of me. I had to show my passport as part of a Zoom. And I'm like, you're just going to have to, trust me because I can't get my camera to work. And they did, so that was kind of nice. All right. Oh, I had it backwards? Okay. I wonder what I was doing. You're right. I saw homework week 3, and it is week 3. I just need to have chapter 4 instead of chapter 3. All right. And really, I should never say weeks because you never know how I have to adapt. Like ever so often, like if our class falls on a holiday, I have to switch things around. So I should really never put weeks in there. I should just say it's, yeah. So I'm glad that happened. So I could, the last thing I want to do is make your life more confusing, right? It's hard enough as it is. So yes, chapter 3, social media question for homework. Chapter 4, ethics question will be for homework. But again, we're not going to be here super long because it's, let me ask you this. Has ethics been a component of every other class you've had? Somewhere in the class, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's legal, whether it's, yeah, it's like, yeah. So, yeah, typically, ethics is ethics. It doesn't matter whether you're, the concept is there, and it's because it has been I don't know, problem's the right way to say it, but, an issue in the past, especially in terms of business, it's become integrated into every course now, right? So historically, 20 years ago, ethics would have been just an entirely separate topic, but now it's kind of everywhere. So I don't spend a ton of time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Well, I was going through the laptop instead of the
Yeah, I can hear you.
headset. Thank you.
That is good.
I mean, isn't it just like, it's nice to have to sometimes think outside the box or have to think of alternatives, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, I got this. I can do this. All right. How many of you have had conflicting goals in the marketplace at some time or another? By conflicting goals, meaning like you were given an overview saying this is what we want to accomplish, but then really the way that actions are going or all of the sub-modalities are happening, it's really what they're saying, them being the company management as a whole, and what they're doing are conflicting. Any of you guys experienced that at one time or another? Typically, that's the case. Especially if you've been around for a while, because this entity that we call business is not perfect by any means. So we have humans involved, and as humans, we can have what we call conflicting goals. From an ethics perspective, right? We have what's called an agent. And an agent is typically the person who is the employee of the company. But it could also be like a consultant, like a hired consultant would be considered an agent of the company. And as an agent of the company, we really are bound to always do what's in the best interest of the company. And if it's a publicly traded company, it is really that we need to do what's in the best interest of the company owner, which is the shareholders. So when we talk about profit, right, so from a finance proposition, like if you take my finance class, we'll say that profit maximization is one of the goals of the company because it is doing what is in the best interest of the shareholder. And that is correct. However, when we look at corporate strategy and finance as part of corporate strategy, it is not always the profit maximization today, because we want to have this overall long-term view of the company, of the market, and of strategy. So when we do this thing called business, we want to keep in that big picture look, right? So to answer your question, Heather, the finance classes that I teach are typically in the graduate program, but I have taught 340. Have any of you guys had 340 finance before? Okay, I've taught it, but it's probably a long, I haven't taught it for a while. I don't know they haven't asked me to teach it for a while. I love teaching finance. I do. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Which I love teaching marketing too, and I love teaching strategy because they go all together. I mean, it is. So like what Scott was saying, because only care about the profit, that should be true, but we shouldn't be looking at profit only in the short term. That's where we get into trouble, right? So when we are looking at short-term profit seeking, it's going to lead us to some probably not very ethical behavior in the long run. Right, so we want to create value in the long run. And when we have that perspective, it takes away some of that potential ethical behavior. Let's look over the scope, and I actually have a few stories. And we will, if you can, open up a new tab, and if you haven't already, let me go ahead. I will. All right, I'm going to screen share this. Instead of having you guys open a. Okay, so I'm going to screen share. I'm getting there. It's taking me forever. All right. All right. There's a couple of ads in here. And I wasn't fast enough to skip the ads, but all right. There we go. Okay.
No, he did not endorse Soothe Zen keto gummies, as you can see here, or rather CBD gummies. Soothe Zen CBD gummies. And it says that Big Pharma is an outrage over Tiger Woods' latest business venture. He fires back with this. Claims it was written by Britt Hume from Fox News. So they're pretending in a way this is foxnews.com, but it's not. It's cbdinsiderdeals.com, which is a scam website that doesn't even have a homepage. So big scam here. Tiger Woods did not endorse Soothe Zen CBD gummies, and it claims that he created the product, and let me guess, he got together with Michael Jordan, and Sam Elliott. I haven't looked below here. I'm guessing Phil Mickelson.
All right, we're not going to watch the whole thing. Okay, this is an example of grossly unethical behavior, right? You guys have probably all seen this, right? Isn't it great? You know, you've all seen like many of you might have seen like the Oprah Winfrey one that has, you know, again, kind of this keto gummies thing, you know, that Oprah Winfrey lost 20 pounds and, you know, so something like this, again, using social media, and a lot of it is on social media, which is one of the kind of, again, those concerns, because boy, you know, did you saw, yeah, with the CBD gummy, I could see that, right? So one of the way, because social media is relatively inexpensive and it's not monitored as like typical print advertising or television advertising, is you get a lot of junk like this, right? So this is, again, totally unethical, outright blatant unethical. So we want to be careful of that. And again, and that's why some of our social media stuff we have to really be on the lookout for. Yes, great point, Scott. It's so inexpensive. You can hit a large group of people, you know, and like the old adage, if it's, you know, too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, right? But marketing gets a really bad rap because of things like this, where it is, okay, oh, it's just, you know, that whole marketing thing, and all of marketing is unethical because you see a lot of this promotional material, and it is garbage like this, and it does. It's just, it's bad for the profession, gives all of marketing a bad rap. Yes, the whole China component is a really a great point, Jade. You're right. The clickbait that's on there, and the destruction and the time. We've got all kinds of issues with like patent infringements with China. I mean, and China's just outright saying, listen, we're not going to, you know, we don't care about your patents. So if you're going to do business with us, you know, there's going to be patent infringement. So businesses have to make a decision on whether they want to do that or not. But yeah, it's incredible. But at least they're honest about it, and they're saying, listen, we're not going to honor your patents, right? So why do people act unethically, right? So if it's something like we just saw in that YouTube video, it's just people looking out to make money quick. It's a scam. Scams have been around for, you know, thousands of years, right? It's always been there. It's just now they're more rampant because of social media and the ability to reach a large audience. So maybe our psych majors might be able to answer this more better than I can. You know, why do people act unethically? I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend to know. But what we want to do from a business perspective is set up a system in play, a culture that is unethically. So yeah, money is a huge driver. But sometimes it's not only money. And let me give you a story that I had in corporate America. So there was a time when I worked for a very large corporation, a very large global conglomerate in Dallas, Texas. So I was in charge of their international marketing at the time. So it was like a holding company. So this very large company had all of these different companies, you know, Harvest and Walker Refractories. It had our company that dealt with tanks. All of these companies, dozens of them, all dealt with the copper refining industry. So it's a, you know, billions of dollar company. I'm working for this little SBU that is part of their portfolio, but I'm in by the corporate office in Dallas, Texas with them. So I got that job because they purchased the company that I was working for here in Green Bay, and I was in marketing then. And as part of the acquisition, they offered me the position to go to corporate in Dallas, and I took it at the time. So going from a fairly small company up to a very large corporation, Green Bay to Dallas. So the work that I did entailed a lot of travel, right? In copper refining, there's not a whole lot of them here in the United States. When there are, it tends to be out in the West, right? So your Arizona, Utah, Texas areas, your copper refineries. But most of my clients that I worked with tended to be in Europe, a little bit of Australia, mostly in Europe is where I dealt. So I would travel a lot. I was, before I was married, before I had kids, so I was out and about everywhere often, going to visit clients, going to visit sites. So I am very frugal by nature. I just am. So I would go from Green Bay to Belgium to visit some clients and get some work done at the time. And the owner of our company said, you can fly business class or first class whenever you want. But I would go to book my ticket and I would see, okay, coach is, $800. And if I fly business class, it's $2,400. So I'm like, okay, that's a $1,600 difference. It's 8 hours there, it's 8 hours back. Can I justify $100 an hour to sit in one seat versus the other? And I just couldn't do it. So even though the company would pay for it, I would still fly coach. And in reality, because I flew so often and was such a frequent flyer, that probably 60 or 70% of the time, they upgraded me for free to business class anyway. So it's kind of like, okay, sweet deal. We were bought out by this large company, and this large company, everything was much more stringent. So they said, listen, if you have a flight that's over 8 hours, you can fly business class. Still didn't do it, couldn't do it. Well, then they came out with this other policy that said, you know what, if you could fly business class, but you choose not to, you fly coach instead, which is what I was doing, whatever the savings is, we'll give you half. So that was a sweet scenario for me. Yeah, I mean, it was sweet because now I kept doing what I was always doing before, and I ended up getting like $800 besides. Company said, listen, it benefits you, it benefits me, right? So, okay, no big deal. Well, I was in charge of marketing. The chief financial officer, right? The chief financial officer came from the company that bought us, came from the main office. She had worked in accounting there. She worked for accounting. There actually was no catch, but so Donna was her name. Donna came from the main, and she was very nice, but she had been like a typical corporate, been in a cubicle for the last 20 years, right? Super nice, good at accounting, had done her job at corporate, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, we're going to make you the CFO of this smaller SBU, which is where I was involved. Again, super nice, but all of a sudden, she was like, you know what, I'm going to go and visit our franchisee in South Africa, right? Because our company had franchisees all over. Now, our franchisee in South Africa was of very little value to our company, right? It was there, but I don't even know if they ever actually gave us a check as part of their package, right? So for her to have to go to South Africa to go see this franchisee that we had was totally false. There's no business reason to do so whatsoever. But she's the CFO, so she can do what she wants. So she's like, I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to go check out our African manufacturing franchisee. And she flew coach, right? So now it's very expensive to go to Africa. So she flew coach, and then she took the money that the company gave her because she didn't fly business class and had her husband go with her. So her and her husband ended up spending 2 weeks in South Africa, right? It completely unethical. Completely. I mean, it was totally wrong. But you know what? If you met this lady, I don't think she went in with the mindset of, I am going to steal from the shareholders. I really don't believe that. I don't believe she did it in a way that was malicious. I don't know. I don't. I think it was like she had been kind of cooped up in this cubicle for so long. She had a little bit of power, and the system was so unmanaged and unstructured. Yeah, they don't even think, and I think if I would have said, listen, this is wrong, she would have been like, oh my goodness. I think it would have been like, she wasn't even thinking. That kind of stuff happens all the time in business. Some of it is so blatant, like clickbaits, like the, CBD gummies and Tiger Woods, and just, some of it's just outright. There's a whole lot that's kind of walking that gray line, and it's not as malicious as it seems. So what do we do, right? Yeah, on the outside looking in, it's always, you're right, it always looks different. Now, that does not make it right. Just because it wasn't malicious and intentional still doesn't mean it's right, because in essence, you are not acting in the best interest of the shareholders. You are doing something wrong. It is unethical. So what we need to do as a company is to put together a system that kind of puts up checks and balances. Yeah, I know. There's a whole lot of things that need a code of ethics, right? I mean, I don't disagree with you, Chris, right? How do we create a strong ethical client? Part of that's going to come back to our corporate culture. And is our strategic leaders in the company, which typically is going to be your top, your top organizational chart people, they tend to be your strategic leaders. Not always, there's sometimes going to be a few others, but the top down has to create a climate like that. It has to be a culture, a culture that you just know inherently where the boundaries are, and there's checks and there's balances. Not that you want a culture where every single thing, you're having to dot every I, to cover yourself. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about creating this system where, again, everyone knows the mission of the company, everyone's acting in the best interest of the company and creating that mission and creating, fulfilling those objectives. Yeah, and people want to do it right? So, and that has to be from your strategic leaders. You can't manage that with forms and, okay, we need to fill out form, ABC and XYZ and, get approval for this and approval for that, where all of a sudden we have this convoluted system, because that certainly doesn't want to make, people want to do right. So now, how we establish and share strong values and set those rules, unfortunately, I can't give you a checklist. I can't give you, if you do 1, 2, 3, and 4, you are going to have this great climate, right? It doesn't work that way. Every company is different. We've got different nuances, and that's just something that the company kind of has to figure out on their own as part of how they create this ethical climate. But it certainly can be done, right? So, I think if we spent some time and we could come back and we could think of, okay, what are, companies that you think are really strong and ethical? There's surveys about that, right? Top 100 ethical companies, in the United States, and people vote on it. Actually, I should see what it is for this year. Open up a tab and just one of you guys or all of you Google what are the top ethical companies in the United States, and let's see what we get, because we've got a little bit of time yet. I'll have you out of here probably by 7. $3M. I've got Patagonia. It's coming up for me. Yeah, I got Patagonia too, Angela. Aflac. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so there's a ton of them. To be honest, I'm not quite sure. It's depending on who's doing this survey as far as what type of results you're going to get. Pepsi's another one, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, so some of it, you're right, is, so we have to kind of make sure that some of this isn't marketing besides, as far as, what's coming out. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Sometimes we have personal. Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with all of them either. And that's one of the things that we have to kind of, just like social media, have some discernment, right? Because we can, as part of our PR, right? We can accentuate things, and it's depending on who's doing, what they're using. So part of it is, is it just because they have certain programs that they're saying? Yes. So it depends on the source. Right? Is it just because some of the stuff that they publish sounds really good, right? Because it is hard when we're on the outside looking in to really know a company. So some of it's going to be by, the employees actually voting, I guess, would be one of the ways to do it. But yeah, so creating that ethical climate is not as easy, right? I know. Who's doing it? I don't know. So one more thing, corporate social responsibility, right? Corporate social responsibility. So this is a kind of a hot topic too, right? As more and more of the social responsibility components come into our marketing mix that we talked about, right? Our marketing's kind of changed. Before, marketing used to be, okay, this is our product, what are we going to do to try to sell this product and try to reach the amount of people, the most amount of people in the, and produce it, right? That's how typically 50 years ago marketing was done. Well, what's happened is as we've had more and more globalization, as we've had more and more competition, we're changing our viewpoint. The viewpoint isn't only just internal and direct external, right, trends in industry. It is looking out over our whole neighbor per se, our whole community per se, and that is corporate social responsibilities, called CSR. And we look at that whole perspective of how we interact with our environment. Yeah. So from a corporate social responsibility, we do it from employees, right? So we have that look of employees. We have that view of what our current and potential customers, but then we add that societal component. How do we interact with the general community? How do we interact, or how are we involved in the overall global environment, not just our direct marketplace? So our corporate social responsibility, that's where we're getting a lot of the environmental components that are part of our marketing now, is part of that overall corporate social responsibility. So can a firm be socially responsible but not ethical? Yes, it can, right? A firm can do all of the right things from just a social responsibility standpoint, but it can still have some internal ethical issues. It's possible. can, hopefully our goal is to do both, right? We would love to be both. This is where we'd like to sit, right? We certainly do not want to sit there. That's just nasty. And it typically doesn't, this is the CBD gummy, right? Kind of concept where it comes and it goes because there's no substance to it, right? So yes, it is possible to be socially responsible and unethical, right? We can look and do things on the outside but still have some problems on the inside. So is it possible to be an ethical firm but not involved with the larger community? I kind of hinge on this and kind of depart from the book a little bit. Yes, it's possible, but I think it's highly unlikely. Because when you get to a firm that's truly got a really good and a really strong ethical program, part of the natural thought process to that is going to continue to have that larger look. So it's possible. I just don't think it's very likely to have a truly sound ethical firm that's not involved with the larger community and that viewpoint that goes along with it. So possible, yes. For sure, this is a yes. This I'm not on board with. Okay, here is our homework. Right, so there's 2 homework submissions for chapter 3 and chapter 4. Right, it's pretty self-explanatory. So it is answering A and then B or C. Right, it depends if it's a no or a yes. So 2 components to this. I'm going to bring us back to this to kind of have a little thought process, and then we're going to end for tonight. So you can get to work on the quiz as well as those 2 homework assignments. Right? This is an example of real life sometimes, right? Because again, some of our issues are not always so blatant and so black and white. Some are, but some aren't. So here's a situation, right? So we've all been in situations where we are working full steam ahead on some type of project. And, the project has deadlines, we've got budgets, we've got, all these expectations that are going to occur. Things are, kind of going full steam ahead. And then we have an issue. And sometimes we can resolve those issues, sometimes not. But in this example, right, we're putting together a new product, and I'm going to throw in an issue of a flaw. Right? Now, some flaws we can work with. Right? There are times where we might have a flaw, and it's not an ethical issue. It is okay. It may not be 100%, but it's still safe. There's not, it might not be 100% on track. But in this case, I'm kind of throwing out a potentially dangerous flaw. So we have 2 options. We can delay production, and then if I delay production, these things are going to happen, right? Or I can continue production, and then these things are going to happen, right? Now, some of it is we don't know for sure, right? We've got potential. It may or may not happen, right? We're kind of taking a look at what we know right now, but there is the potential, and this is the reality, right? If I delay production, these things, we're going to have this, and I'm throwing in a money aspect in here. Now, when we look at things like this, right, most of us are going to be, well, this is a no-brainer. We're going to delay production, right? But again, it's not always so clear-cut, and it's especially, if you're in a situation where there's pressure. So using the same corporation that I did before, we were in a scenario where our quarterly earnings were going to fall short of what we reported. And if you know anything about publicly traded companies, right? So publicly traded companies kind of give projections out, and they say, okay, here's what our Q4 earnings are expected to be. And if those earnings aren't completed like that, if they fall short, there's usually a pretty significant outcry in the investment community. Once, so you never want to underperform. There's just a tremendous amount of backlash if you do. But that's exactly what was going to happen. We were going to underperform. So they came to me and said, hey, because I'm in charge of marketing, I was in charge of sales. They're like, we need to sell some goods and we need to sell it quickly. So now our product was a engineered product. It's not like it wasn't toilet paper. I could just say, okay, let's change our ad campaign. Let's put toilet paper on sale 1 month earlier than we could. So that way we book the sales and we kind of have an uptick at the end of the quarter so we meet our quarterly goals. It wasn't like that, right? This is a product, months and months in engineering. So I'm looking at these people thinking you're idiots because you're asking me to do something that's impossible. I cannot book a sale early, right? I mean, I can't go to my clients and say, I know this is a capital budgeting expenditure, but can you just like maybe release an invoice, release a PO to us early, even though we're not going to deliver it for 6 months, right? That's not even logical. Which is why I found out very quickly I was not meant for corporate America. Because in essence, I kind of said, yeah, you guys are idiots. Yeah, I know. I'm like, really? I'm like, I don't know who you think you are. I don't care how much money you're making, but, you're an idiot. Which, again, didn't work so well in corporate America. I was not fired. I will say I did quit. But anyway, yeah. But if you're in a position, I mean, I was in a position that, I didn't care. But if I had a family or, debt and, things that, it's a little harder sometimes to not back down to some of the pressure that's out there. And it's out there in corporate America. Let me tell you, it is out there. It can be very nasty. The corporate finance, the investment finance end can be very, very difficult. So we are not going, you guys, when you go out, you are going to set up companies that are doing things, like this, right? You're going to set up a company that has a strong culture, that, has people want to do the right thing because you are setting up a system, providing a mission, providing objectives and a plan, because you're going to have employees that, love to be where they are. And you're going to set up companies that do that. Okay? And then once you do that, you're going to ask me to be on your board of directors. And you'll probably hear me say that like 10 zillion times. Ask me to be on your board of directors. All right. Do you guys have any questions? While you're thinking about that, online students, let me give you the second keyword, right? You guys hang out. Online students, keyword number 2 is society. Keyword number 2 is society. Back to you guys. If you don't have any questions, that's it. You are free to leave. You can start to work on that quiz. The quiz should be open. It is due. It's the 20th next week. Yes, the quiz is due on the 20th. And just like before, you can open and close the quiz, right? So you can open it, work on it, save it, open it, close it, save it, right? But once you submit the quiz, then there's no more changes that can be made. So open and closing is fine throughout the week, but once you submit it by the 20th, then there's no changes. Okay, so submit by the 20th, but make sure you're ready. Okay, any other questions? All right, that's it. You guys have a great night. We're going to come back next week and look at a little bit more work on our marketing environment, internal, external. Thank you. Use your time to get that quiz done because I know it's a hectic week. Until next time, I agree.